So, getting right into it, you make YouTube videos and you have your own company, Feel Good Hemp. That's what it's called, right?
Yep,
That's a lot of positive energy. So, where does this energy come from in your being?
that's an interesting question.
Like, what compels you to follow this path?
I feel like it's something that you could call spirit, you could call guidance, you could call destiny, whatever you want to call it. There's just this compulsion in my heart that's like, hey, if I'm going to make money, I'm going to do it in a way that makes a tangible, meaningful impact to others. And I'm going to do it in a way that, the only way to ever make money, period, is to do something that makes a tangible, meaningful impact to others. Unless you're just talking about like trading and just moving money around and then, oh, we made some cool. But, you know what I mean? Like you're always providing a good or a service that someone somewhere needs. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get paid for what you do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just for me, these are the things that I find meaningful. I like to help people feel good naturally, which is the mission of Feel Good Hemp. And I've been doing that for 13 plus years as a coach and a content creator in various different ways for helping people overcome their inner blocks, their inner uh, confusion, or whatever is sort of in the way of them expressing their full potential and helping them organize and clear that out and go for what they want in life and get past things that have been sticking points along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, feeling good is about feeling your highest potential, like being in lockstep with it, right? Where it's not, of course, we're never at our highest potential because there's always another moment until you're an enlightened master who's achieved moksha and you're shining and radiant, effulgence, if that's the right way to say that word, right? You're just this effervescent master who's radiating light.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, there's levels to that. There's
Mm-hmm.
9 degrees of initiation in yoga, the way I've been taught it. And, to put it in perspective, a Jesus, avataric being like Jesus was a seventh level initiation. So even a Jesus who's literally carrying the love of the world in his heart and is doing so in such a way that for generations and millennia afterwards, the ripple will be felt. That's still like, yeah, and there's more after that. Right. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
so it's just about understanding, to me, like feeling that alignment that you're where you're supposed to be and
Mm-hmm.
you're riding the wave you're supposed to be riding, and you're doing it to the utmost of your ability, and you're not holding back, and you're not selling yourself short, and you're not making excuses, or you're not falling prey to your old programming or your old patterns or things that no longer serve you, right? Like when you're in alignment with that, that to me is what life is all about. Because when
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there, I feel like crap. And when
Mm-hmm.
I am there, even if it means I'm spending the day laying on the couch with my wife, like we recently caught a flu and we spent several days on the couch. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm not in alignment with my potential. I was like, this is an interesting experience that's unfolding for me. And it felt like exactly where I was supposed to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love helping people be there. Right. And so Feel Good Hemp, if you've got chronic pain, it's pretty hard to feel like you're riding the wave of your leading edge of potential, right? You're dealing with chronic pain. So it's a great medicine. We help people use that. And then we also provide all these self development tools, techniques, and content, because there really is so much more to your ability to self heal and self guide and lead a great life than, just pain relief.
Mm-hmm. I want to go off what you said. First of all, yeah, that's great. I like that. Great introduction, man. Uh, I want to go off what you said about alignment and staying aligned. I mean, I think the first step is first of all finding your alignment. So how would you find that alignment, and then how do you stay aligned to the Tao, whatever you want to call it, the Tao, the flow of life?
I think that finding your alignment is something that people don't need to do personally. And let me give it some more context, because I'm not just saying like that's a dumb question or something. It's what so many people are searching for. How do I find my purpose? How do I find my greatest gifts? How do I? It's literally, you can search it in Google and there's millions of people looking for this, and it's a huge topic in the self development world. I think you just go for what you want in life,
Mm-hmm.
and as you go for what you want in life, the alignment is revealed, right? I didn't start off being as maybe altruistic sounding as I sound now. I started off being like, yo, I'm trying to get that money, son. I'm from New Jersey, yo.
Yeah.
And what I wanted was, I wanted to make money online, not be a 9 to 5 working engineer, which is what I went to college for.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to travel the world. And at the time, I was training a lot of Muay Thai kickboxing. So I want to go live in Thailand and train Muay Thai and make money online. Right. And then that
Mm-hmm.
eventually became, I want to go spend a bunch of time in Brazil and train Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because I got into that next, and make money online. So, I did the make money online part. I built a 7-figure e-commerce business straight out of college. And I was already starting to do some coaching. It was like in the space of men's dating relationship coaching. Um, I hadn't gone full, holistic health, wealth, relationships, and spirituality. Like I coach people on everything now.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been gone there yet. I was just like doing like dating coaching for guys and this e-commerce thing, right? And I got the money I was looking for. Like I literally remember, I think it was 2009, thanks for Halloween 2009. I carved the words "get money" into a pumpkin,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
Which is very far from where my consciousness is at these days, right? So I got the money because that's what I wanted. That's what I thought I wanted, right? And then the next thing revealed itself. And then I started getting really into some more esoteric spiritual things. And then I got really into Qigong. And then I got into a 10-day silent meditation. And then I met my spiritual teacher and learned Kundalini Kriya yoga and started practicing that every day. And then I went on like 8, 10, that's 11 plus years now. I've been practicing that technique every day. And so it changes you, right?
Mm.
And, but what I'm saying is, when I was sitting there thinking, what's my highest purpose, and what do I want, or how do I get it? I didn't think, okay, here's the windy weavy path that I'm going to take. First, I'm going to get this, then I'm going to want that, then I'm going to get this, then I'm going to want that. You just go for what you want, and then what you want, when you receive it, it either validates you or changes you, right? It either takes you deeper or further, right? Like you get to the, like, let's say, oh my God, I want to be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Great. You train your face off for that. And somewhere along the way, either that still feels really, really true and you keep going for it, or at some point, something else feels more exciting or more aligned, or something happens that changes the trajectory, right? In college, I helped the Rutgers rugby team go from like an unranked D2 college team to a top 20 in the nation D1 college rugby team. We went from playing like nobody's you ever heard of to playing Penn State and Army and Navy and like just big schools, big clubs. And I was super hardcore into it while I was into it. And then I missed a tackle, hit the ground completely with my shoulder, and just blew out my shoulder. Just probably needed surgery, never went and got the surgery. I was just a bullheaded kind of dude. I was like, oh, it'll heal. It took like 2 years to heal. But the way
Mm.
I healed it was, I started getting into, as soon as I could move it enough, I started getting into Muay Thai kickboxing, and like throwing hooks and like lots of jabs was like really actually good repetitious strengthening of that whole area, right? And then, being a drunk college idiot, I tried to punch through a 2x4 being drunk, and just literally just broke my hand. Just
Wow.
punched a 2x4 as hard as I could, being a tough guy with Tommy Tough Nuts, right? And just broke my hand. And I said it right away. I was like, ah, just broke my hand. Again, never went to the doctor, just spent like weeks and months like bending it into order. And
Mm-hmm.
but that's where I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu took me way deeper into movement. It's so much more of a full body art than rugby. Previous to that, I was doing football. After that, Muay Thai, but Muay Thai even has it's only got so many movements in it. Jiu-Jitsu is like fluidity.
Mm,
It doesn't have limits, right? And so that got me way. And then I moved to California and I started training with the Gracies. And I started getting into the Gracie diet, which is very alkaline, very light. So my diet started to change. And at the time, I was also selling alkaline water. And that was so. To make a long story short, what I'm saying is like life leads you into your potential. It's much more about whether or not you can see things that you want to go for that you're not going for.
mm,
Then that's how you're blocked up. And that's what you need to know. So getting into alignment is really just go for what you want, because there's a reason why you want it. Period. If you everybody wants different stuff. What I guarantee what I want right now is not what you want. Like, sure, we all want good body and a great relationship or several great relationships, or we want some money in the bank and some freedom of time to go do something fun with that money. Like, we all want we all want to feel loved. We all want connection. We all want meaning and purpose. Like, there are some fundamental wants that we all want. But when we're talking about specific things, we all have very unique desires.
mm-hmm.
So I believe that those desires are planted in us because they're ours to go after, and that life will reveal by us going after our desires, either the pivot or the deepening, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Mm.
but how to stay in alignment, that's where there is a conscious effort that can be made, where it's like, okay, if you're going to be a gold medalist at something, well, guess what? Like, beyond just training a ton, because everyone trains a ton, you're going to need to make sure that your inner game matches the outer, right? That your mindset, that your belief structure, that your emotional intelligence and memory, that your cellular memory, that your even your karma, your some scars, your energetic tendencies that have come in to this life with you, potentially from past lives, or have been built during this life, all of that can either hinder or be aligned towards
Mm-hmm.
what you want. And that's what I really focus on with people these days in my coaching, is helping people to rapidly align. I literally call it the rapid alignment process. I haven't told you about this, but I just love that you grabbed onto that word, because that's literally all I work with people on now is alignment. I truly don't think there's anything broken. It's just whether or not, it's like, if if the river is cut this way, the water is going to flow this way. But if my goal is over here, I need the river to be cut this way. I need to align it over here. And it's actually not that hard to do for people, with the right techniques. So
Mm.
it's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great, man. Wow. And then when you explain it like that, it seems like we have a purpose here. And that seems like what we're all lacking, or at least we think we lack a purpose. We're all just we're just we think we're these just human beings that live a life of with a lack of meaning. But when you find that alignment, it gives you a sense of purpose and knowing that you're supposed to be here, almost like a placement. And for me, that is a sense of peace or joy. There's like less inertia in my being to follow that flow of life. Yeah, man, I feel it. I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. You explained it very well there. Um,
Yeah, I think the thing you're talking about, a lot of people feel, right? It's like,
yeah,
we look out at the world and it's like, well, I'm not Elon Musk, so
yeah,
I've come up short, right?
exactly.
But something that I got from, oh, I think it's from Bo Eason, who's like a former NFL player, who's now like a speaker, coach, trainer. He talks a lot about, or I think maybe Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about this too. It's like, you beat out 350 million other sperm
Hmm,
at the moment of conception to be you. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
you are literally born number one.
Mm,
You're born an absolute winner. The
hmm.
the top of the heap, the absolute best. Think about if you actually were standing at a starting line race with 350 million people, and then you ran that race and you won it. How would you feel about yourself?
Really good.
Right? You'd be
I'm the
like,
best.
shit, I'm pretty good.
Hmm.
Like, wow, I beat all of them. Well, you already did that before you even came into creation, right?
Yeah.
Let alone getting into the topics of spirituality and divinity and talking about yourself as a divine and perfect soul who's seen and experienced countless experiences and who's literally one with ineffable divinity, right? Like,
Yeah.
so let alone that, just talking strictly biologically, like
Mm-hmm.
you're amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, I think a lot of it comes down to deprogramming all of the keeping up with the Joneses that we
Yeah.
get, and so that we can actually let life flow, so that the life that's supposed to flow and move through us can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It moves through us. You become like a vehicle, almost like a tool or an instrument of that divine.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I believe on one level we're here to do, is to witness the creation and to be present to it,
Yeah.
because everything else is doing its biological thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got everything. The squirrel right now is either playing with other squirrels, trying to mate, gathering nuts, building a nest, digging a hole, or raising its young. It's not going like, holy crap, it's amazing that trees exist. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have that existential awareness that we've been given the capacity for, because we're made in the image of God, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we have the witness potential. That's the single thing that sort of differentiates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. In yoga, they say that's why human beings are the height of evolution at this level of existence, right? In the 3D plane. We're the height of evolution. Two reasons. One is because we have the ability to witness everything and to like admire at its creation, and we
Mm-hmm.
have that consciousness. And two is that our spines are upright, and so we can do yogic processes and basically seek God. We can seek a oneness with the divinity. An upright spine is an essential tool to that. And if you look in the animal kingdom, I don't know if there's a single animal that's coming to mind for me that has a perfectly upright spine.
Wow. Never thought of that. No. Wow.
Every other animal is either flat or some sort of
Or
angle
a curve. Yeah.
or a curve or something.
Wow, man. So that allows the flow of electromagnetic energy up to the higher states, the higher chakras, because they even say animals have chakras too. So that, I guess, creates an obstruction if it's not straight. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they do have chakras. Some of them, I don't think any of them. I mean, I'm in no way the expert on this. Maybe dolphins have all six chakras, or seven main chakras. But I know, for example, like dogs have two or maybe three, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
they're like the root chakra and the second chakra or something like that, right? So they know how to love, they know how to hunt, they know how to get food and create safety, and they know how to interact emotionally, but they're not going to express cosmic consciousness.
Yeah, they don't know they're a dog.
Yeah,
You know, they don't
although
know that they
my
are.
dog seems like it's not even a dog sometimes.
Yeah, dogs are highly spiritual beings for sure.
Absolutely. Dog spelled backwards is God.
It's not an accident. That's funny. So yeah, I want to get into one of your videos. You said you went to some kind of temple or some kind of monastery of the Kriya lineage. What was the name of that temple? You know what I'm talking about? You said you went there and you looked at the paintings or the posters of the Kriya lineage and you kind of just like you just exploded with emotion, you know?
Oh yeah, that was actually Yogananda's SRF temple in the Lake Shrine in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's at the end of gosh. But yeah, it's basically in Santa Monica.
So what was that experience like, man? Like was there what hit you in that moment? You know, what was coming in? What was that transmission when you were sitting there looking at the Kriya masters? Was there something like an initiation?
No, it wasn't an initiation. I've received initiation from my spiritual teacher, Yogi Raj, my guru, who is a Kriya master. He's a living Kriya Kundalini yoga master. And in his past life, it's like well known that he was Swami Sri Yukteswar, who is Yogananda's guru.
Wait, hold on. Is
And
this guy popular?
Yogi Raj, he's
Mm.
less popular than you'd imagine, considering he's a living avataric being and master of Kundalini Kriya Yoga and
Oh,
Yogananda's guru.
yeah, I know this guy. He's white hair, long beard.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Oh, okay,
yeah,
so you were
and you
studying with
can
him for a
find
little bit?
pictures of him where he's sitting in front of a bust or a painting of Swami Sri Yukteswar, and it's sort of like acknowledged by the Indian spiritual councils that he has the same birthday as Swami Sri Yukteswar and damn near same face,
This guy, right?
and yeah, like they're very similar. Yeah, that's Yogi Raj. And if you like look for like Yogi Raj Swami Sri Teshwar or something like that, you'll see the likeness of them. Not that it even, you know, it's not like he walks around going, "Hey, by the way, I'm Swami Sri Teshwar." Like that one where he's sitting um down below that
Yeah.
to the left, where he's sitting with a white beard just above that. He's sitting with orange robe there. So it's like him and Yukteswar together.
I can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
definitely. Wow.
same face, same birthday, same
Mm.
same teachings. And yeah, when I hear him, there's certain things because it's not like he walks around telling everyone, "Oh, this is who I am. I'm the reincarnation of Swami Sri Teshwar." It's just people see it when he's giving transmissions and things. People will see Swami Sri Teshwar's face morphing inside of his face and things like that. And then the thing that tipped me off to it the most was when he talked about Lahiri Mahasai, who's the bald looking sweet man who's like the basically he brought Kriya Yoga back to humanity and in modern times. Um, he talked about Lahiri Masai and Yogi Raj, and he referenced him as the greatest yogi saint who ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel such reverence, such like just absolute heart filled, humble reverence, appreciation. Like it brought a tear to my eye when he
Wow.
said that. And I could tell, like, oh yeah, like that was his guru.
Mm-hmm.
And you could feel that, even though we're several generations removed from that now. But anyway, it wasn't an initiation, but it was more just the masters have a power to do a lot with a little. I'll just give you an
Mm.
example. One time I was in India at my guru's ashram, and I had this whole head trip going on. This is like 2013. Had this whole head trip going on that I was traveling to India to be initiated as a teacher because I was so into my Kundalini Kriya yoga practice, and I just really wanted to teach other people how to do it. And that's what I was being summoned to India for. And I had this whole story built in my ego and in my head, right? And like 3 days into being there at a 10-day retreat, I'm like, why hasn't anyone told me about it's time to like start training as a teacher yet? Like, what's going on? Why, what's my higher purpose for being here? And blah, blah, blah. And I went up to Guru after a talk and I was like, hey, Guru, I was saying all this stuff and I'm not sure about like saying all this stuff. And he's just like, everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay. I just walked off.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it too, though. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is okay. I don't need any
Yeah.
of that stuff that I mean? Like, so the guru can, and the masters can just pluck huge structures out of you with a word, with a phrase, with a look, right? And so in that moment, I was dealing with incredibly challenging times in my life, and I think really they just gave me a space to just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just being with them and just crying is just what came out. Right. And
Wow.
then for a minute I cried and it was like audible, like wailing, like not pretty crying. It was like
Mm-hmm.
right. And then I got the intuition or the nudge from them maybe to stand up and go sit down and meditate. And as soon as I did was when the whole huge empty hall, like as soon as I stood up, someone came in. And I was like, wow, what a gift that was. I just
Mm.
had my because that room is never empty.
Yeah.
So it's these little things that to people not on a spiritual path, they're not that magical. But when you are, you start to see these nuanced things that just bring so much magic into your life.
Yeah. Yeah, like messages that are circumstantial. Like it only happened for you in that moment, in that point of time, in that space, and it was meant for you. And even when you tell the story, we're obviously not grasping how that felt in that moment. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
Do you have any other experiences like that of kind of transcendence and ways of seeing your being a little different, or just kind of directly experiencing the divine?
So many, man. So many. Let's think of a really cool one.
What was the first one that kind of got you on the path? Like, do you have any story on how you got, the light bulb turned on to follow the path?
Big time. That was actually the one that was coming to mind. So it's maybe 2011. This is before I'd met my guru. But I was studying herbology, how to identify herbs, use natural herbs as healing devices, right? Not just talking about cannabis, talking about calendula, talking about all these sages and all the different herbs. And I was training with an herb master in San Diego, who named John Finch, who takes people on herb walks and teaches you how to identify all these different herbs, teaches you how to create healing salves, what to use different herbs for. And his buddy in Mexico was hosting this herbal practitioners meetup event.
Hmm.
And so me and a couple buddies, we decided we were going to go. And to me, I'm like, cool. It's going to be like a hippie festival. I'm going to sleep in a tent. Maybe I'm going to hook up with a cutie, right? Like I wasn't that spiritual yet. I was sort of like pseudo spiritual, right? So I was like, this is going to be fun. It's going to be like going to a festival, right? But we get there and it's at this incredibly sacred site called Mount Cachuma in Mexico, which is one of supposedly it's the throat chakra of the earth. You
Uh-huh.
can look up on the mountain and just see this light blue haze on it all the
Mm.
time.
Wow.
And it's the location of the first yoga ashram that was ever in the Western hemisphere.
Hmm.
And so it's very sacred, right? And we get there, and instead of it being this hippie meetup, it's literally natural like natural healing practitioners of many different types from all over Mexico meeting up to discuss the states of natural medicine and how it's basically being stomped out by the government,
Mm.
and how it's in dire straits, and how to preserve some of these teachings and share some of these teachings with others. And it was this like incredibly sacred place with incredibly sacred people. Anyway, long story short, I'm injured at this point and haven't been practicing jujitsu for like 6 weeks because I like reactivated an old back injury. Right. So I'm injured, and I make friends with this woman and this man. The man's name is Andres, but people call him the Owl Witch. Right.
Hmm.
And this is not your typical shaman, or at least how we think of shamans. This guy, he smokes cigarettes, he drinks Coca-Cola, but he's like one of the best healers there,
Hmm.
right? And at one point, I sit down, and Andres, who speaks like, we're speaking half English, half Spanish to each other. I speak okay Spanish. He speaks okay English. But he basically just looks at me and just pierces through me with his eyes and says, "You're injured. You're hurt."
Hmm.
Right. And I'm just like, yeah, how'd you know? Right.
Wow.
But, right. He saw it in my matrix. Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, do you want to try something? I'm like, okay. So I go over to his tent and he pulls out like a massage table with no legs on it, so just flat on the ground. Right. And I have no idea what's going on. But apparently, this guy, Andres, he's like the man. Right. So, like 30 plus people gather to watch whatever he's about to do because he's like the man. Right. So I'm laying down, and she's like the wife, Kelly, I think her name was, is like holding energetic space. She's kind of like doing some energy something. And Andres, he kind of does, the way I'll describe it is like it was like the most craziest energetic chiropractic adjustment of my life.
Hmm.
He's like moving my feet, my legs, and like telling me like, hey, release the fear. And he like just like cracks some stuff in my lower back. Then he's
Hmm.
like holding me and like moving my belly, and he's like talking to my body. He's like saying things in Spanish to my body, like not to me. And he's like, release the fear, crack, crack. And then, what's the name of the guy who Carlos Castaneda? Are you familiar with any of that work?
I know his name. What did he write?
Okay, so Carlos Castaneda wrote a bunch of books about training with these Mexican shamans who could do this thing where they would call it your assemblage point. It's basically this sort of like illuminated egg that's in your auric field or in your field that is your point of assembling reality. And these shamans could move it at will. And so this guy, Carlos Castaneda, who was training with these shamans would just be like, boop, boop. And then he would be like in an alternate universe, like running from crazy, like demon looking zombie things that like he's actually there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because basically, when someone takes LSD, takes a large dose of psilocybin mushrooms, what happens essentially is your assemblage point shifts and you're assembling reality from a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shifts back when you come back to town, right? Some people get stuck there, right? We've all heard of those people who took too much acid and just kind of never came back. That's because their assemblage point got stuck and they
Mm.
didn't have anyone around them who could go click, clack and move it back, right? So this dude actually was trained in some of that for sure, because he was moving my back around and he's just like, release the fear. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, release the fear. Pop, pop, pop. And he pops me on the heart 3 times. And like, I think that was him doing that. Right. Then he flips me over. He's got my like shoulder behind my back and he's like touching my shoulder. And he's like, you miss your mother. Where's your mother? I'm like, my mother's in New Jersey. He's like, it's okay to cry. Everybody cries. And I'm just like, oh. I'm like, tears just came. I don't know where they came from. They just came, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
all in front of a bunch of people, right? So then he flips me back over, right? There's a whole bunch of like cracks and movements and things and whatever else happened. And he sits me up and he's just like, how do you feel? And I remember in that moment, I was just speechless. I literally said nothing back to him. And then he stands me up and he's like, how do you feel? And again, I said nothing to him. I remember I was literally just looking at my hands as if I had never seen them before.
Mm.
I was looking at my hands and just being like present to my hands
Mm.
in a way that I guess I hadn't been in maybe ever, or maybe since I was 4 years old or whatever, right? Like I was present. And being present was so mind blowing that I had no words for this guy right now. And funny way to end the story, he says, hey, he's like, thank God, thank the stars, thank the moon, thank the sun, but don't thank me. I'm a motherfucker. And he just walks off. And like everybody else just walks
Oh
off with
man.
him. And he just like goes to release this energy that he just took for me, like off into the wilderness or something. And I'm just like left there standing by myself looking at my hands. and,
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and literally the back injury that I had had for 6 weeks with basically no improvement, it was completely gone the next morning when I woke up. And I go walking up to him like a little goof to say thank you, even though he told me not to thank him. And he knew that that's what I was coming over to do. And so he walked right by me, just pointing at the sky,
Wow.
and just didn't even like engage with me because he knew what I was coming over to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely like a starting point, I'd say, of I'm sure he cracked me into some spiritual awareness that was a foundation for everything else that would come after it. Because shortly after that is when I did my first 10-day Vipassana retreat. And Vipassana is sort of like the baby Kriya, right? It's like a great technique to prepare yourself to be ready to do Kundalini Kriya Yoga as it's taught by Babaji, right? So I did a 10-day Vipassana, and then like a month later, I met my guru and learned that technique and have been doing that ever since.
Mm.
And there's a bunch of qigong in between there somewhere. But that was, I'd say, the experience that took me from the land of the ordinary, young martial art training, online business, money making, I'm the freaking man. I drive my motorcycle and I'm strong and cool and I got to figure it out and I'm smart kind of dude, to the like, oh, we don't know nothing. We
Yeah.
don't know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of emptied out my cup.
Mm-hmm. I surrendered a little bit.
Yeah, it just helped me realize, first off, just help me be more present. Second off, help me realize how little I actually knew about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's something I constantly try to remind myself, because as you gain awareness, it's easy for the ego to creep back in and for you to think you know something now. But even my guru says the only thing we know, Lord, is that we know nothing. Only you know. And my guru, whose consciousness I cannot comprehend, he says that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing to stay incredibly humble no matter where you're at. God will literally just act through you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think you know how to do anything.
Yeah.
It'll just happen.
Yeah. Wow, man. That was good.
Spiritual food.
Yeah, it's good food, good cuisine. Now, you said God will act through you. Um, what is God to you? Is it a frequency? I know it is truly unexplainable and unfathomable, and you can't put labels on it. But if we can try, at least in this conversation, what is this frequency and transmission of God to you that comes through the guru and the healers, like you said?
It's a oneness.
Mm,
It's pure love, although the word love pales to explain the
yeah.
love that it is.
Mm-hmm. That's the best we got.
It's, yeah, it's the best we got. It's synonymous with that word, though.
Yeah.
It's pure compassion, pure creativity and play.
Mm,
Pure, yeah, it's cosmic creativity, with, yeah, nothing but the highest love is really what comes through. You know, my
mm-hmm.
guru has words for it that try to take something you can't explain in words. He'll call it the the zero not zero, the of
Mm,
whom not may be said, right? He calls Babaji the lightning standing still, and Babaji and God are sort of very synonymous. um yeah, it's the everywhere now here,
yeah.
right? it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's
Yeah.
infinitely ginormous and unfathomable, and then also infinitesimally tiny and non-existent. It's
Mm-hmm.
right. It's I don't know. It's toroidal field comes to mind, right? It's like
Yeah.
overflowing with love, and it also has like a nothingness to it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
it's a zero. Yeah, Yogi Raj will call it the zero, not zero.
Mm-hmm. Everything and nothing. Yep. It's like everywhere and nowhere. It's a paradox. It's a constant paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And it's two poles. And if you can explore two poles, then you can find what's in between the poles. It's really the same thing. You'll come to find that, either opposite is truly actually the same thing. You can't have one without the other. So God is really the duality between yin and yang. It's like the connection between the poles, which is essentially how we express that is love, right?
Yeah, and it's like the in between, the in between, the in between of the in between,
Yeah.
right? It's like as soon as you're labeling it, it's not that,
Yeah, exactly.
which is the, yeah, it can only escape us in a human form, right? Like
Mm,
what we can do is we can seek it through technique, through practice, whatever one you happen to resonate with. And, you know, I believe that that's whichever one you'll practice consistently, right? So
hmm
some people will find God walking in the forest every day with no technology and absolute heightened awareness of the miracle that they're walking through as they walk through the forest, right? You could
Yeah.
find God that way. You could find God as a swordsmith, finding the absolute utmost perfection you can in the steel that you spend a lifetime working with,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can find God sitting on a yoga mat practicing Kundalini Kriya yoga. That might be a more direct path than swordsmithing, but if someone's destiny is to be a swordsmith, you can't expect a fish to climb a tree, right? So I think that everyone has God available to them and a path to God available to them, and it's really about understanding your demeanor, your temperament, your conviction as well, right? Kundalini Kriya Yoga is not a path for people who are it's for the people who are going for it. It's not for the
Yeah.
faint of heart. It brings up a lot of old stuff and negative karma, and it'll test you. It'll take you to your knees. But the cool thing is that God will never give you more than you can handle. So
Mm.
you can always rest on that and stand back up. And if you keep standing up, man, God will lift you up.
Mm.
Like that, I know for sure.
I like that. I like that. Getting back to it, how we started this whole thing is to become aligned. There is in that alignment is that God frequency. And you just create and you serve that God frequency. And it's a flow. And that's essentially peace. At least that's how I see it.
100%, man, because the samurai warrior going into battle with death on the line, there's a peace there. It's like samurai, who I'm semi obsessed with, just as a note. Um, Samurai know that the purpose of their life is service to the kingdom through combat, training, rearing their family, and serving their village duties as well, but constant combat training, perfection of that skill, and then potentially a glorious death on the battlefield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not like, oh no, but I haven't seen like the next episode of that show I really like to watch yet. I can't die yet, right? They're not attached to the future. If
Yeah.
they're dying in this moment, they're dying in this moment. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you can hear my little 11-month-old having a fit, but
Hear him a little bit or her a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
no worries. I'll bring the mic closer.
It's okay.
Um, yeah, no, she's amazing. Her name is Lakshmi too, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, she's an amazing, amazing little girl. Um, but yeah, when you say that alignment is peace, it is. Because again, here's the thing. Okay, have you seen the Joaquin Phoenix version of the movie Joker?
I actually haven't. I know I should. I know I've heard a lot of good things, but I actually haven't seen it.
Okay, it was very well done. I don't usually like to watch stuff that's that dark, because it's just not my vibe. But darkness and light are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
As you go deep enough into the darkness, you find the light. As you go deep enough into the light, of course, you find the light. There is only light, right? Yogananda said, shine the light and the darkness will disappear as if it was never there, right? Because there is only light. Darkness is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I brought it up is because my buddy showed me the movie. And in the movie, you're following this guy who's trying to not be a terrible person. He's taking all his meds. He's like trying to deal with a deeply wounded psyche and be a person in the world. But the world keeps kicking his ass, keeps kicking his ass. And every time you think like, oh man, the Joker's about to emerge, it's like, no, another layer of the world kicking his ass gets stuffed on top and on top and on top. And guess what? When he finally does emerge as the Joker, what you notice is that his energy is flowing more fluidly.
Mm.
Everything that felt blocked up and tight is now fluid. He literally even like does like fluid movement, sort of like ecstatic dance stuff that is literally him expressing this flow of energy that is now flowing in him. And it's like we look at that and we say like, well, no, it's very bad to be bad. You shouldn't kill people. You shouldn't cause chaos. It's like, yeah. And without the Joker, well, Batman's not really that cool. And I know this is all a
That's
figment
true.
of comic book world, but without amazing supervillains, superheroes are pretty lame too.
Oh, that's
So
very
it's
true.
like he he found peace and his energy turned on when he became his supervillain self. And I just say that not because I'm condoning violence or condoning people being something bad in the world. It's just from a higher perspective, everyone has a purpose, a dharma, a karma, a reason for being. There's a reason why certain people go through certain traumas and certain programmings at certain times in their childhood, such that they might want to enact some sort of negative, horrible, or vicious thing out in the world, right? At the end of the day, though, we have this destiny, we have this karma, we have this energy flow. Again, I don't want it to sound like I'm like, oh, it's a good thing for someone to go do a mass shooting or something like that. By no means, I see a world in the future where we're actually mentally healthy as a society and these kinds of things aren't happening, nor are wars, nor are, like crime itself is sort of an old paradigm compared to where we're going to be going as a society, right? But what I'm
Hmm.
saying is that the energy flows when you're in alignment. And whether you're a drug kingpin who's running the biggest empire in all of Colombia, or whether you're a superhero cop who is really just killing it for the 30th precinct in New York right now, like when you find your thing, when you align with it, when you say yes to it, you'll find that peace that you're talking about. Because you feel like you're just doing what you want to be doing, and
Hmm.
there's a reason why you want to be doing it. It's like, to me, this is all orchestrated from a way higher perspective
Yeah.
than our human consciousness. And so
Hmm.
to vilify anything is, to me, it's limited awareness at best.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all subjective. Someone kills 50 people in a shopping mall and they're the worst person society can think of. Someone kills 50 people on the battlefield and they're a receiver of multiple hearts and declarations. At the end of the day, 50 people got killed, right? It's
Hmm.
subjective, though. It's all about, is this the right kind of killing,
Yeah.
versus the wrong kind of killing, right? At the end of the day, though, it's about us saying yes to our divine destiny. And, this is in no way me, again, condoning anyone taking an easy road out, like, oh, well, my divine destiny says I should kill myself, or my divine destiny says I should just go be that mass shooter. No, like, and I don't even think those kinds of people are listening to this kind of work, right? But it's more just to take the limits off of our perception of what is it. My purpose means I have to be doing something good that everyone in society can see that it's good, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
no, like your purpose could be to raise 4 children and to do a damn good job of it, and then to be a great grandma or grandpa,
Yeah.
right? And to work a Joe job that no one's ever going to remember you for, that might not even be that meaningful to you, right? But at the end of the day, you come home to those kids and they have a place to eat, a place to live, and food to eat, and that's that was the plan for you. And guess what? If you read some Bible verses all along the way, or you pray every day, or you do some yoga every day, or you take a walk, or you talk to your higher self every day, or you just have a heart musing every day, or you just take some conscious breaths every day, you can make a world of progress. Lahiri Mahasai was like an accountant, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the person my guru said, the greatest yogi saint who ever lived.
Hmm.
He worked a Joe job as an accountant, right? And he
Yeah.
never complained about it. He was never like, oh, this is beneath me. I'm a yogic avatar. Literally, his wife, who didn't even know he was a yogic saint, she woke up out of bed and saw him levitating above the mattress. And that was her first realization as to who her husband was. And she bowed down and took him as her guru. in that moment, right? That's how humble he was, though. He still worked as an accountant every day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's wild.
So yeah,
Mm,
I just feel like we have a lot of stereotypes going on too around what does a spiritual life look like and what does
mm,
purpose look like.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe simplicity is key to that. Keep it simple. Um, and I think just that is also a product of spirituality too, is you just naturally do simplify your life. You realize what your wants are, and through that, you just figure out like a how do I explain this? You figure out what you want, and then in that, you kind of just like focus on that and simplify it in that way, and realize a certain kind of path for yourself rather than getting sucked into all different kinds of narratives and the drama of life. It's kind of just like it's a byproduct, I believe, of that practice is really just becoming simple minded, not in a way of like you become dumb, but becoming just like not amused with anything else that isn't tied to your purpose, you know?
100%. I mean, and that's if you look at all great beings, there's some element of that there. And I'm not just talking about the great saints and sages and yogis. Look at anyone who's gone to Olympic gold. Their life is damn simple. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much stuff that the average teenager does that those people do not do. It's
Yeah.
so, even when I'm learning from people who are like Bo Eason, who's an NFL player, he's like, it's so much less about what you do and so much more about what you don't do,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go to the NFL, well, guess what we're not doing? We're not eating the Snickers bars and we're not, going to the movie with the jumbo size this. Oh, and we're not staying up late and sleeping in late. And we're not, there's so many things. We're not going to that party on Saturday night. We're not it's just it's training, good eating, sleeping, training, good eating, sleeping, education, training. It's like, okay, there's four things in my life that matter because I have this goal that I care about enough. And for spiritual people, that's why they, maybe make some dietary changes, lighten up their diet. It's not because, oh, killing animals is wrong and you can have your opinion on that and this and that. It's because you need to have a lighter body to have a more enlightening experience, right? That's why the yogis recommend a light diet, not because of morality, although there's plenty of reason to talk about that too. But you know what I mean? The meditation every day, the lack of drinking and drugs and partying and lustful fornicating and just chasing there's a reason why the yogis who were householders they were monogamous, right? They had one, they were married, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for seeking the great one beloved, well, you definitely don't need more than one beloved beside you, right? Like
Yeah.
polyamory's gotten real popular these days, but to me, it's a distraction, right? And people like to use it as a path, and it totally can be a path, and it's a fire path for sure. People going down that path, they will take pieces of themselves that they didn't realize they were insecure about, and they will burn it up in a huge way. And it's great for that, right? But as far as like simplicity's sake, like I have one teacher. I
Yeah.
have one technique. Now I have a million teachers, but I have one master. You know what I'm saying? Or I have a
Mm-hmm.
million teachers, but I have one guru,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's a million techniques I know for personal development, a million meditations I know, but there's only one that I practice every single day, right? So simplicity, like you talked about, just like the samurai, right? Their lives were super simple,
Mm-hmm.
super simple. And that's how you
Mm-hmm.
get greatness, though, because jack of many trades, master of none,
Mm-hmm.
right? And where
Mm-hmm.
your energy goes and your attention goes, right? If you have 35 places where it's going, it can only be so potent.
Yeah, that's very true. Mm.
That's the great existential threat to our current population, by the way. These
What's that?
guys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, share, jump
Mm-hmm.
to another platform. They said, what? Oh my God, let me fight with them about that. Jump to another platform, check out a photo, take a selfie,
Yep.
and it's like, did you meditate today? Did you move forward the thing that you care about most in your life today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a giant it's a distraction. Endless excuse me, endless distraction, you know? It's just infinite wormholes that you can go down that most likely don't pertain to the alignment that we're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, the
for
power
sure.
to focus is literally the currency of tomorrow.
I
Like
believe
when it
that.
comes to who will be hired by companies, they'll be looking at, can this person stay focused in our conversation for more than 90 seconds?
That's so true. It's sad but true because that's how you get things done. You just have to be able to, like you said, take your energy and focus it, almost like pinpoint your energy onto a certain task. And if you're scrolling on TikTok and doing just getting lost in the sauce of the internet, you're not going to be able to do that. So yeah, man, I like that. Would you say the focus is the currency of tomorrow? For sure.
it's
For sure.
it's
It already
literally
is.
in it's already in short supply.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's why it's so important to have these practices to stay aligned. So what is your Kriya practice like that you do every day? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can't actually share, how you do it or what it is, but it's a seated meditation and it's a simple spinal breathing process. It's a technique that anyone could learn, anyone can do. It's the fascinating part about it, now that I've been doing it every day for 11 plus years, is that it's so simple but infinite. It's very much like God itself. It's very simple and then infinitely complex at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I actually just told you how to do it, you'd be like, that doesn't sound too hard. But then when you actually sit down and you practice it, there's just all these little nuances that come up over the years and refinements and subtle bits of mastery. And so it's kind of like how Bruce Lee said, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Mm.
It's kind of like that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, I think, who go from technique to technique to technique in the spiritual realm. It's like, oh, I do a little bit of this, and then I do a little bit of, oh, I listen to some Joe Dispenza meditations, and then I listen to a paraliminal, and then I do a little bit of breath work, and then I do a little bit of, I do some hot yoga too, and right. And it's like, okay, well, if you choose one of those kicks and you practice it 10,000 times, now you're going to know something new about it and about yourself and about God.
Mm.
And it's kind of like that. It's like you can see God. I don't know if you ever heard of this Muay Thai fighter named Bukau, but
No.
you can see God in his sidekick. You know what I mean? Like that dude can sidekick, and it's because in Muay Thai there's only literally two main kicks, and and a couple different destinations of where you're targeting those kicks to go, but it's pretty much two main kicks. And so these guys, they've practiced it way more than 10,000 times. These guys have practiced these kicks probably 250,000 plus times, right? And it's just the accuracy, the speed, the power. Oh, it's unbelievable. This dude is, 120 pounds. I could not take one kick from him, not one. And I'm like 220 and 6'3", right? Like, and this dude's probably 5'5", or I don't even know. But anyway, little Thai guy would kick me in half. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I feel like is most important for people to understand is, Kundalini Kriya Yoga, it takes initiation from a master or from a certified teacher. I'm in training right now to be a certified teacher. So when I had that head trip in 2013, it was 2021 that I actually finally did start to train as a teacher for the
Mm.
organization and for my master, right?
Yeah.
Only like 9 years later did the head trip come true, right?
Mm.
But so there's other people though, like for my particular type of yoga, people can go to Siddhanath .org, which is SIDDHANATH.org. And there's lists of teachers there. You can talk to a teacher. Someone can initiate you. It's like $108 darshan to learn the techniques to get initiated. He actually has a webinar coming up where he's going to do a webinar initiation because travel's been so restricted since COVID and all that. But it's like nothing I can teach you right now, right? But what I say again, it's a simple spinal breathing process. You're breathing in and out. it's a visualization, it's an internal mantra. It's the combination of those three things
Okay.
that challenges your consciousness to stay present, and it moves two main currents, the pranic current and the aponic current. So it's basically an evolving breath that evolves consciousness, and then a dissolving uh, current of energy that liberates old negative first, and then even positive karma is just old debris of negative and positive karma. So it evolves your consciousness, it liberates your karma, and it's like a steady breath that deepens as you practice it more and more. And that's the primary technique. There's other techniques that support it that are part of the practice too, that are sort of like, yeah, they support it. There are other spokes on the wheel, but that spinal breathing technique is the primary technique. And I think for anyone who's on a yogic path of any kind, it's valuable to acknowledge pranayama as the key
Mm-hmm.
to evolution,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The
Like
breath.
in the Bhagavad Gita, pranayama is, I'm forgetting the name of the character that pranayama represents. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know.
It's like starts with a B. Maybe it's Bhishma. I might be wrong. But anyway, pranayama is the strongest warrior on the forces of good in the Bhagavad Gita,
Mm.
right? So it's basically an it's saying, hey, pranayama is the most powerful tool. Anyone who wants to seek moksha, seek enlightenment, seek oneness with divinity, self-realization, right? Realizing yourself as one with God, right? If anyone's seeking that, some form of pranayama is the way you want to go, right?
Yeah.
And Kundalini Kriya Yoga is they called it the lightning path because it's the most evolutionary version of pranayama that you can use. So it's the way I like to think about it is there's a mountain and knowing God is on the top, and there's a million different paths up that mountain,
Uh-huh.
right? You can take a long, windy one. Kriya Yoga is sort of that really steep, really treacherous sidewall that's like, man, you get up there fast if you go this way, but it's going to be intense. It's
Uh-huh.
kind of like that,
Makes
right? There's
sense.
other paths up
Yeah.
the mountain too, though.
Mm-hmm. But it's for people that are like, I want God realization right now.
Absolutely. And
I see.
those are the only people who are going to stick to it because
Yeah.
it will well up your stuff.
Mm.
It will. Because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you use the most potent technique known to man of evolving your consciousness at the fastest speed possible, my guru talks about 30 seconds of Kundalini Kriya Yoga breathing is the evolutionary equivalent of 1 year of typical human living,
Mm.
which also includes something like maybe going to church on Sundays and reading the Bible here and there, or having some spiritual discourse or discussion as part of your daily life. But 30 seconds of this breath is equivalent to a year of that.
Wow.
So you can evolve your consciousness millions of years in a single lifetime, which is what it takes, honestly, to go from a rambling human who's getting drunk and putting his hand through 2x4s to someone who has a spark of divine consciousness ever present in his awareness. There's a big gap there.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
need a tool, you need a
Mm-hmm.
technique, and you need a teacher. Teachers are very important because another thing that my teacher says is just, to go learn your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s. We don't send the kindergartners to class with no teacher, right? They get a
Mm-hmm.
teacher who
Mm.
knows their 1, 2, 3s and their ABCs and can make sure they're learning them right. Meanwhile, people get on the spiritual path and they want to transit the cosmos of all consciousness, space, and time on their own. I'm just gonna figure it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab a little of this and a little of that, and I got this. And the craziness of that, when you put it in that perspective, is pretty funny, right? It's laughable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you needed someone to help you with your 1, 2, 3s, right? And you think you got spirituality locked on your own, right? That's why the structure of gurus exists throughout, all of history. It's like
Mm-hmm.
why they come. They come to do that work because It's like, why does a waterfall exist? It exists to have water transit from here to there. Why does a guru exist? It exists to help people transit from where they're at to divine consciousness.
Hmm.
That's their purpose.
Yeah. It's to provide that transmission, get back to it in a simple way, right? It's like the guru knows what you need more than you know what you need.
Yeah, and when you need it,
Mm,
and how you need it,
mm,
and they can influence a real sat guru. And I'm not talking about sad guru, different guy, right?
yeah.
But a sat guru is any guru that literally takes their disciples on in such an intimate way. They literally like they form a cord, an energetic cord. They breathe for their disciples. They do spirit. When a sat guru meditates, they're not moving their own karma. They don't have any. They're literally moving the karma of their flock for their flock. They're, if I take one step, guru takes 100, right,
Hmm.
for me. And that's a beautiful gift to have in this life. If you're ever um have the opportunity, it's something very few people in the modern world have, is a sat guru.
Hmm.
But that's the highest form of a guru you could have.
Yeah. It's not even just this life, too. Some people say in the Kriya lineage, it extends beyond this life. Like that cord is not just here and now, it's forever.
Yeah, the guru
So
comes
yeah.
with you from life to life. It's the
Yeah.
only thing. The only thing that comes with you from life to life is the consciousness that you cultivate during this life. And if you've got a sat guru or a guru, they come too,
Hmm.
because that's the only thing. And that's Yogananda. I just heard this story from my mentor, who spent 25 years in Yogananda's ashram as a monk,
Hmm.
study, practicing the same type of yoga but Yogananda is his guru. But this man hasn't missed a day of meditation since 1967. And he's the godfather of my daughter, and we speak every couple of weeks. And he just told a story about how when Yogananda first came to the West, he was in um, he was in high society, right? The aristocrats always resonated with him because he was so magnetic.
Hmm.
And this woman was saying, please, like, I've got this whole group of high society together. They're actually in Boston at the time.
Hmm.
And he said, I got this whole high society group. I want you to give a motivational speech to them. And he looked out and he said, this is a room of horrors. He looked out at a room full of people who were drunk, who were eyeing up each other's wives and trying to hit on each other's wives, who were stuffing their faces full of way too much food, who were just high society, highfalutin, right? People just engorging themselves with food and drink and wine and women and the whole deal, right? The seven deadly sins, right? The most
Hmm.
fun part of a terrestrial life. Um,
Yeah.
he looked out at that
Hedonism.
room, yeah, and he said, this is not a group of people that want to hear my talk. But
Yeah.
she kept insisting. So he gave a talk, and the way the story goes, he was just up there spitting fire. And he was just telling these people how much they were wasting their lives and the opportunities that they had, and the
uh,
little bit of good grace that was in front of them, how they were, and how much good they could do with it for the world, how they were wasting it. And the story goes that portion of the room started crying. Another portion of the room just felt like, wow, like he's got me nailed to the wall here.
mm.
Right. And, I'm sure another portion of the room was like, who is this guy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. But why I bring that up is because the only purpose, this is how my guru says it, the only purpose of man's sergeant on this earth is to seek God.
Hmm.
And I really, it's worth repeating, because it's like his soul cry, so to speak, right? It's he doesn't chew words or use words lightly, right? When he says the only purpose of man's sergeant on this earth, of our being here, is to seek God, and to really let that in, because we think about everything else so often and
Yeah.
God so infrequently. But what if the only purpose is the thing that we think about maybe least frequently in our life? How are we doing? Right?
Collectively, I don't think we're on that wavelength. Hmm.
it's, at the end of the day, though, God is in everything. So as
Yeah.
I'm raising this beautiful little 11-month-old girl and she's screaming in my face and I'm exhaustedly tired, that's God,
Yeah.
right? And as I'm doing my work in the world through my companies and I'm running into obstacles and we got to raise more money or we got to do more of this or I didn't do enough of that, that's all God too,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the more you start to see God in everything, the more God is in everything, and the more everything is a conduit to your God realization.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yeah. It's a
so
good way to
that's
put it.
that's the game, especially if you're here to be a householder, which we definitely clearly both are. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't born into some hermitage or ashram or at the foot of some mountain somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah, I just that's what gets me going, man, is to help people realize that look, there's only one freaking thing you take with you from this life, and it's the consciousness you cultivate. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you ever heard that Alexander the Great, the conqueror who took over basically the entire modern world at one point, he had a guru, he had a spiritual teacher,
Yeah.
and his guru uh, gave instructions on a funeral pyre to the entire army before then setting himself ablaze in that funeral pyre and leaving his body in Mahasamadhi, right? The,
Wow.
the great samadhi, consciously leaving his yogic body behind. He basically commanded that Alexander the Great be buried with his wrists and his hands out of the soil. And so when Alexander the Great died, he was buried that way. And it was to show everyone that even if you own the whole freaking world, guess what? You ain't taking none of it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not a drop, not a dime, not a piece of dirt, none of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that matters is how close to God you get in this life. That's it. Because that you take with you. That's
Mm.
your evolution. That's your
Uh.
that's your that's your goodie bag.
Yep. And like you said, it's the game. The
That's the
game.
game.
It's the game of life. It's the game of God.
Yeah.
Mm.
And in our world, in our modern Western Christian society, God's gotten a bad rap. He's a vengeful God. He's a
Yeah.
judging God. He's sitting on a cloud looking at what you're doing and saying if it's right or wrong, God. God doesn't do any of that. God's not any of that. He's everything and anything. So
Mm-hmm.
how can he judge himself if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's just I think for people who are in the Western world to realize that whatever version of God you might have learned that doesn't really resonate or feel benevolent or feel inspiring to get close to, that ain't God.
Mm-hmm. It's not, yeah. It's just dogma. It's just people following dogma, but the true dogma is the opposite of the outside. It's inside. It's God. It's funny how we talked about in the beginning the what's God spelled backwards? It's dog. So what's the
Right.
opposite of dogma? It's God, and it's not on the outside dogma, it's on the inside God. It's kind of like a weird wordplay that's going on there, but I don't think that's an accident. And that's what you come to find out is this God is not an external thing. It's not an external deity that we bow down to. It's literally we are a part of that at all times, always will
Dude,
be. Good.
dogma, am God.
That's too good. Yeah.
Dogma backwards is am God, as in like
Hmm.
I am God.
Yeah.
Right? Dogma is the opposite of it because dogma keeps you away from knowing that you're God.
Yeah. There it is, man. That's too
I
good.
never thought of that. That's powerful.
Oh, that's weird. That's a strange one right there. Oh man.
It doesn't surprise me because the people who created, you know, the reason they call it a spelling bee or they
Mm,
call it spelling is because words cast spells,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And language casts like a meta spell on people. And a
Yeah.
lot of the way that our language restricts our awareness has been coded into its creation by
Mm.
people with intention to restrict our awareness. It's really hard to control people if they know that they're God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the secret. They don't really want that to get out. But it's
Right.
inevitable, I think. I think it's inevitable, man. I think it's the cat's out of the bag at this point. And it's just a matter of time.
anyone who's looking can find. And yeah, as the vibration of everything continues to rise, it's just more and more and more people and faster, more people and faster. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm so stoked with this technique that I've just really uncovered after 15 plus years of constant self-development nerddom. I've got this technique that is helping people to rapidly align whatever's misaligned in their beingness that's keeping them from getting what they want. And all they have to do in order to receive it is listen and allow me to talk to their higher self. And then they receive these down. It's like the Matrix when they go, I know Kung Fu. You can literally talk to people's higher selves or talk to your own. You can code in what you want coded and receive it, download it, and you can just shift a part of your being or a huge
Mm.
chunk of your being to
Oh.
align with what you actually want so that it
Mm.
naturally operates in harmony with the creation of what you want,
Mm.
right? Sort of speaking to the idea that the order of creation is be, do, have. You be the person who naturally does the stuff, and then you get to have the thing,
Yeah, I see.
right? And where people struggle is to become the person they're trying to be because they think that if they just get the things they want to have, then they'll become the person they want to be. But it's
Mm.
the opposite. You become the person you want to be first, and then you do the stuff and you have the stuff
I
as a
see.
natural consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And so this technique's a way to rapidly change who you're being, which then naturally changes what you're doing and what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to share a whole YouTube video teaching it in depth as soon as possible because while I'm using it with my clients and all that, it's like I just also want everyone to know about it
Yeah.
because
Wow.
it's like it could save people years of psychotherapy or just countless hours of other different less effective techniques even I've used with my clients over the years. So yeah, it's called the rapid alignment process. So look for that on my YouTube channel sometime soon.
Okay. Wow. Will do, man. That's awesome. Well, you know what? I think we can probably wrap it up. If you want to plug your YouTube channel, now's the time. So, or plug anything else or any last words. Yeah.
Sure, man. So my YouTube channel is Feeling Good with Noah Hammond Tyrrell. I think the URL is /Noahji, like Noahji. But yeah, if you just look for Noah Hammond Tyrrell on YouTube, you'll find me. And our company, feelgoodhemp.org. We sell high quality CBD products that help people feel good naturally. We started after helping my dad beat a 3 months to live diagnosis.
Yeah, can I actually
Of
ask about that real quick? So,
course.
um, did what was he on? It was stage 4 liver cancer, right?
Yeah, he had stage 4 liver cancer and a tumor on his liver like this big.
Okay, so was there anything else that was administered to him? Was he going through chemo at the same time, or was just a massive amounts of cannabinoids?
So Western medical didn't have a treatment protocol for him. They
Mm-hmm.
basically just offered him a 3 months to live death sentence. They didn't say like, oh, we can try all these things and maybe you'll have a 10% or no, they're just like, sir, like you have 3 months to live. But we did do one round of what's called chemoablation, which is like a more sort of like it's supposed to be more direct and less total body and more like to the point. Um, and so he did one round of that and came home from the hospital. And then as soon as he was like able to eat and think and look straight again, we got him started on massive doses of hemp oil, including CBD and THC, and 20 to 40 ounces a day of vegetable juice, primarily beets and carrots because they're very good for the liver. And so those were the two main things that healed him up. The chemo might have kickstarted some of it, but they just did it to do it. They didn't do it because they're like, oh yeah, one round of this is going to obliterate your tumor for you, sir. Like that's to
Mm-hmm.
me the most helpful thing about him having done that was that it made it basically impossible for him to eat for like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And so it sort of helped reset his taste buds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very useful when you're about to introduce tons of vegetable juice to a man who's never had any. He was like able to receive things more easily, and he was much more intuitive and in tune with his body because he had just basically done like a 2 week fast. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was actually the most, fasting is a healing modality. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think the most helpful part of that was probably the fasting.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, but so, I won't neglect to mention it though. But again, the doctors, they didn't have any hope for him. They just gave him a 3 months to live diagnosis. And the doctors at the liver cancer specialists, they were just floored every time they saw him. Oh my God, you're the most healthy person with liver cancer we've ever seen. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Right. It took 2.5 years later for because he's now been cancer free for like 4.5 years. And
Wow.
and um it took them about 2.5 years to finally go, hey, what'd you say you did? Because early on he's trying to offer it and they'd be like, sir, if you think you got a placebo effect from some other thing you tried, like that's great, but we don't want to hear about it. It's
Mm,
like, meanwhile, literally everybody else who has liver cancer at the same place as him is dead now, and he's
mm.
perfectly healed. And I mean, at least anyone who had it as bad as he did, it's not a thing you live through, right?
That's wild.
So yeah, so that's why we started the company though, because I got really familiar with hemp oil and its power and how useful it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we built Feel Good Hemp out of that. And alongside our CBD products, we offer a whole platform we call the Feel Good Library of different self development techniques. My wife is a sound healer and a yoga teacher, Kundalini yoga teacher. So we have different yoga sets for like anxiety or depression. We have sound healings and different self-development techniques for like processing old emotional traumas and understanding your core wounds and all kinds of good stuff. So it's all for free there at feelgoodhemp.org, and people can check that out too.
That's awesome, man. Wow.
Thank you.
Mm. Well, you're one of the real ones. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy that you brought to this conversation. And I appreciate anybody that listened or watched this long. Thank you very much. And yeah, other than that, namaste.
And namaste, brother. Thanks for having me.
Of
Cheers,
course.
everybody.
Cheers.